On this week's show, why it's another big win at the box office. Our thoughts on the big change with Twitter. Should I change that? Because I just said big. Our thoughts with the big. Oh no. Our thoughts with the great change going on with Twitter. Our thoughts on Twitter's huge change. Man, that's not good. Let me start over. On this week's show, it's another great showing this weekend at the box office. Our thoughts on the big change with Twitter, TV ratings news, and how popular is Grand Theft Auto 5? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another edition of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate being part of the broadcast here today. And my goodness, it's another stacked lineup of news, of all this great pop culture-y stuff that's going on. We're just like putting like in a potpourri of pop culture, just throwing that at you. And who here to break down a lot of this pop culture with me today than my good friend. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanica Media. He is the professor of Humanica Media is Josh Peterson. What's up, my friend?
Hey, not much, man. Just hanging out on this Sunday, ready to talk some pop culture and do stuff. What's up?
Sound like my kids when I'm taking them home from school. What'd you do today? Stuff. But anyways, again, it's going to be a great program for you here today. We've got a lot to talk about with Josh and I, including stuff on the box office, Grand Theft Auto 5, Mattel and Hasbro. All that and more coming up in a great show for you. Also as well, Rob McCallum with the Cosmic Crossfire and Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide and TVRatingsGuide.com. She's here to talk a little bit about what's going on in the TV scene. And our good friend Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast, he joins us with more, with a recap of Week 10 in the NFL. But it's another great weekend at the box office. Josh, I know you got a chance to check out the numbers. Thor once again reigns supreme with Ragnarok, but it's actually a pretty good slide. There's always a slide in the second week, but usually these blockbusters have a tendency to go maybe in the high 50s, low 60s, sometimes a little bit more when it comes to a decrease percentage-wise from one weekend to the other. This weekend, it actually looked like it decreased right around 50 to 55%, which is actually above expectations. So I ask you, Josh, with all that going on, plus two other movies that came out this weekend, Murder on the Orient Express and Daddy's Home 2, which both really exceeded expectations as well. What does that signal to you as far as signs that the box office, at least for the interim, might be getting a little bit healthier?
Well, okay, so look at it this way. These movies opening weekend, so far they've done, Daddy's Home has done 30 million. Murder on the Express has done, just north of 28 million. That's opening weekend numbers. That's not, but
they were pretty, though. That's actually pretty strong for them because they were both scheduled to go around 15 to 20 million as far as what they were predicted at.
That's true, but it's just going to decrease as we go. And yeah, that's okay, because I think they're predicting lower numbers for these movies as they come out. But Daddy's Home 2 has been just getting beat to death when it comes to reviews. And I don't know much about Murder on the Orient Express. I haven't read a lot on it, but I mean, yeah, I guess it's good, but it's not this is what you'd expect from a movie, a typical rom-com movie. Thor still won out the weekend though with 56 million, you know, a little bit over 56 million, and that's not counting what it's going to make today too. So yeah, I guess like in a way it does give hope to the box office, but at the same time it doesn't really. It's just another movie that's gonna bring in a low amount of dollars for them.
Well, what it does to me is signals that there's these people are actually a little bit more excited about going to the movie theaters because the holdover for Thor Ragnarok was stronger than what was expected, plus Daddy's Home 2, which, as you know, I cannot agree with you more. Just given just roasting on reviews, I believe the Metacritic right now and Rotten Tomatoes are both under 20%. So that tells me right there that at least people were willing to go ahead and check the movie out in the first weekend. And Murder on the Orient Express, which received mixed reviews, about a 50 to 60% on both those sites, it debuting about $10 million above what it was expected to do is, to me, a very strong sign for that movie. And plus the fact you got to consider the target age group for Murder on the Orient Express doesn't really always go and check out movies in the first weekend. They'll usually see it during the week or later in its run. So seeing it up front like it did is actually a pretty good sign that maybe people are starting to head back and get into that rhythm of going back into the box office. So maybe that's a sign that there's going to be a little bit healthier returns going forward, at least until maybe the end of the year when Last Jedi continues its run into January and whatnot. So hopefully there's some good signs there overall. You know, you and I are going to be talking here in a few days on the PCC Multiverse about how well Justice League may do upcoming. So that's definitely people getting back in that rhythm of going back to the movies may be a good sign for Justice League that it might hit the numbers that it needs to hit going forward for DC as well.
Right. So we'll see, man. I don't know. The box office is a weird thing lately, and it looks like it's only going to get worse as we go here. But we'll see. Like, because I can't really make these predictions unless I see like a movie come out that isn't like a superhero movie or a big Disney movie or something. And Daddy's Home and Murder on the Orient Express give us some data, but we'd have to see further on down the line as more movies come out how this is going to affect us. And especially with what's going on in Hollywood right now, I think that there's a danger of things getting worse here before they get any better.
That's an excellent point. I didn't factor that in, so that's something absolutely to think about, that there could be a backlash from the public at large over what's going on within the Hollywood medium right now. So that's definitely something right there to think about going forward. And we'll definitely try to keep a closer eye on that as well as it relates to the box office movie season. Something else to think about and a possible backlash that could form and has in some ways already is the video game industry when it comes to microtransactions. And I want to hear your thoughts, Josh, on this, because I know you've been on the Super BS Gamescast, which you can catch on all the great Humanica Media channels, about talking about microtransactions and how it's affected the industry. And we've also talked about it a little bit on this show as well. I know for a fact that Battlefront 2, after its beta, a lot of criticisms came about in regards to the loot boxes and microtransactions and pay-to-win scenarios that are created or that were proposed to be created by what Star Wars Battlefront 2 might have been doing. I know they tweaked it, some changes. I know they tweaked it out a bit, made some changes, hopefully for the better for fans out there. But their upfront reason why in doing this is because they're going all the maps and the DLC and that would normally be paid for on a season pass or whatnot, that they're actually going to make free and compensate that and balance that out by offering these microtransactions. That is okay, still kind of iffy to me, but I understand the process, what's going on. They don't like that fragmented as far as population that they had in the original Star Wars Battlefront, so I get that. But Randy Pitchford from 2K Oh, actually, is it Randy Pitchford? Hold on. I'm sorry. Just recently, Take-Two, well, the makers of GTA 5, NBA 2K, the upcoming Red Dead Redemption 2, and so much more, BioShock including, they recently announced during their shareholders and reporting of their numbers that, quote, we aim to have a recurrent consumer spending opportunities. We aim to have, said, quote, we aim to have recurrent consumer spending opportunities for every title that we put out at this company, end quote. Tell you what, that to me reeks of microtransactions. And if that's the case, every 2K game going forward, whether it's a new BioShock game, whether it's whether it's Red Dead Redemption, whether it's a new, whether it's a new Borderlands game or whatever from 2K, WWE, NBA, what have you, that tells me that they're going to try and sneak in so many of these, well, they call it consumer spending opportunities. I call it microtransactions, which at times can really infuriate. I know the NBA 2K crowd is really upset on the way that they've gone about the microtransaction process there. So I ask you, Josh, with all this shift in the industry created towards a future of microtransactions and the decisions that EA and 2K have made, how much of a backlash do you think this is going to be created within the video game industry at large?
It's going to create, yeah, it's going to create problems. It's one of the, well, because you look at it this way, we pay $60 for a game, and now there's this big thing. I forget, I don't even know who started it now, but I'm pretty sure EA was like at the head of it with Battlefield and some of the other stuff they made. But you now have to pay. I mean, look at Shadows of War. Like you can sit there. It's it's good and it's bad. It's bad because it just that's what we're going to get from now on. We're going to get loot boxes, we're going to get microtransactions, and the question is, how long is it going to be until they make it so you have to buy certain items, or you have to pay to get into a certain place, you have to basically pay to finish the game? How long is it going to be until that happens? And then on the other side of that, they know they keep making these big, long games, and they know that this is an issue. They know that people, in their 30s or 40s, gamers of that age, cannot sit there like they used to and just devote hours and hours and hours to these video games. So they not only make it so if you want to actually like play the game and have a fun experience, you have to buy all this extra stuff, but they make it so in order to not have to sit there for 100 hours, you pay them money. And this is, it's lazy and it's greedy. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems here soon, especially if, a lot of kids have their parents' credit cards set up to their Xbox accounts and stuff like that. And that's also going to, we're going to be seeing some backlash from that. But I'm not very happy about it. I don't like it. I think that it's, it's not the best way to go about things. And they knew that the season passes kind of pissed people off, and now they're expecting something like this to not piss people off. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I just think it's, in one way, it's understandable because the price of $60 of a video game doesn't go as, first of all, not many people are buying video games at $59.99. The way retailers are discounting them, it's regardless. But I know exactly when these retailers sell the game below $60, it's not, that's on their own doing, and it's not necessarily always taken out of what they're paying back towards the EAs and 2Ks of the world. But that being said, I understand $60 doesn't go as long of a way as it once did. But that's still these situations where they're trying to manufacture more and more income for themselves. To all of us, it's just very disheartening. But when you consider the fact that more and more people are spending money on this and biting the bullet and say, well, I'm not happy doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and pay to win, or I'm going to go pay and get that nicer stuff. That's, to me, it's just very disheartening. With Overwatch, it's more aesthetics. With some other games, it's also more about aesthetics. And if you don't want to pay for extra, whatnot, or those fighting games, Japanese fighting games, those Japanese fighting games or other fighting games that have always in the past offered DLC for extra clothing, extra costumes, extra characters, what have you, that's fine. That's extra, and that's up to people as far as they want to go ahead and do that. That's always been accepted on that end. When it comes to season passes, when they became a norm, I at first you were right. Everybody was upset about it. They should have just made it, really optional. That tells me when they've already got season passes already announced before the game comes out that they are just shortcutting the actual original game as a whole. That is a problem that I've always had with. When there was a game like Oblivion or Skyrim and they came with extra DLC, that's a 100-hour game, both of them in and of itself. So that's fine that if they would charge people more for DLC. That's cool, and I can hang with that. But when it comes to those games that you would pre-order the season pass before the games come out, that to me is an issue. And this goes even further, where they're basically tell you in a lot of cases, and these upcoming games possibly in the future, like Battlefront 2, which we'll talk more about on Friday's show as well. That tells me this pay-to-win scenario makes it truly unfair, and that I really have an issue with. And when you have a pay-to-win scenario, that is truly the wrong way to go as far as a video game developer.
Right. So look too, like with multiplayer pay to win, you have people who are being, they're, instead of going by the rank system like they used to, you can basically pay. It's like being really good at a sport and playing in the beginner league. So you can pay to have these really great weapons that just dominate everybody and still play with noobs so you could level up really fast. And I know that was a problem for Battlefront, but and basically what they're doing too is like saying, like, once again, here, we made this game, you're going to spend the money on it, and we're going to deliver you a completely incomplete experience. And it's just not, it's not fair, and it's kind of greedy, man. It's like, and gamers we're cheap, man. We don't have money to spend on all this stuff unless we're in high school and we're using our parents' credit cards or something. But I think that there's going to be some backlash from this, and it's not going to work as much as they think. And the idea of games as a service it's having its moment right now, but I don't think it's going to last very long.
What are your thoughts out there on this continuing trend towards microtransactions, or as 2K puts it, get this right here, consumer spending opportunities? What are your thoughts on this as a whole in the industry? Are you okay with this trend because you realize these developers and these publishers have to make money, and they have to go ahead and provide these type of things in order to go ahead and continue their profitability? Or do you think there's other better, smarter ways of going ahead and presenting these games to consumers out there? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Humanican Media and Game Source, and Humanican Media, Game Source, and Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook and Twitter as well. And also share us your thoughts. Did you get a chance to go see any one of the 3 movies that are out there this weekend? Thor Ragnarok, Murder on the Orient Express, and Daddy's Home 2. What are your thoughts on that? We'd love to hear that as well. It's going to be a great show again. Indeed, we've got Rob McCallum standing by with his thoughts on Twitter's big changes coming up in the Cosmic Crossfire. Also as well, we've got Jessica Boggs from TVRatingsGuide.com. She's going to stop by with some thoughts on the TV rating scene. And of course, Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Podcast, from the Fantasy Football Pater Podcast. He is going to stop by with a recap of Week 10 in the NFL. And of course, Josh and I will be back talking a lot of great things, including why GTA 5, including how GTA 5 just crossed a major milestone within the video game industry, and thoughts on Hasbro and Mattel may be coming together. We're going to share our thoughts on that indeed later in the show. But first, it's, well, our man in the know when it comes to music on Mondays. It is Chad and Hyperschmidt, and this is Find You, and this is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos show. My name is Gerald Glassford on Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate being part of the broadcast here today. And if for some reason you cannot check out our shows, both Monday and Friday, the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse, which are the #1 and #3 shows on the Podcast Radio Network, there's still other ways to get the program. And you can do so by heading over to the Pop Culture Cosmos channel today on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, the Ace Podcast Network, Overcast, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tenjabon Network, Gunna Geek Network, Cast Crunch, PopCultureCosmos.wordpress.com, and also Podchaser as well. Josh has also got his great experience, including Attack of the Humanicans, every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on a Podcast Radio Network. Josh has got his great thing going on with Humanican Media. So, Josh, what's going on within the wonderful world of Humanican Media?
We are recording stuff. We have some new stuff, but I don't know when it's going to be out yet. Thanksgiving coming up. We might not see till after, but it's good stuff. It's worth waiting for. What About This will be back in December. Again, we'll have a new Super BS up this week, and probably a new episode of Inside Sports. So stay tuned. Check us out on Facebook for the updates, and you'll always know on the both Pop Culture Cosmos and Humanican Media. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
As always, indeed, we truly appreciate it. And I want to make sure everybody out there knows not only are we going to talk in Justice League, and also as well, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2 on our Friday show, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network, the PCC Multiverse. But our Black Friday coverage starts this Friday on that show. And we might have a surprise for you as well in regards to Black Friday coverage. So we always take great importance to the Black Friday scene each and every year, as far as ad leaks, as far as what you might want to go for and what you might be interested in. Some quick thoughts from both of us on exactly where you might want to lean towards to on the Black Friday shopping season. We're going to definitely give you our thoughts on both the Friday show and this show, the Pop Culture Cosmos show, next week. So you definitely want to check that out indeed. Plus, again, we might have some special thing for you happening as well. All right. Josh, I tell you what, did you get the news this week that two long-standing rivals within the toy industry and other stuff as well, Hasbro and Mattel, they may be coming together. There are talks. They're just talks right now, similar to what Disney and Fox have been doing, in regards to Hasbro, amazingly, buying Mattel. This changes back from when I was a kid, when Mattel could have bought Hasbro. And because Hasbro, even though it had the Transformers just starting out and G.I. Joe and some other stuff, they were still most likely being dominated on a daily basis by Mattel's Hot Wheels and Barbie. Oh, how it has changed. So quickly, I want to hear your thoughts on the possibility of these two toy icons coming together with Hasbro possibly buying the Mattel company.
What a great time. We're 2 movies away from Fast and the Furious ending, and they're about to buy Hot Wheels. So I'm seeing a major franchise in the making here. It's a hey, I mean, I don't know what the market is for toys right now, because I know a lot of do a lot of people still play with action figures and stuff? I know it's like Lego is huge right now, and like the collector toys that like us nerds like are made by other companies. But do they still sell a lot of that stuff? I haven't really paid attention since I was a kid.
They still do a lot of business out there. I mean, obviously, it's not what it once was with so many other diversions for kids out there with video games, tablets, electronics, things of that nature. But there's still millions of dollars, to be spent out there. All the major retailers have it. But I think the best sign that it isn't what it once was is that the fact that Toys R Us has had its troubles as well. So Mattel being on the verge of being bought by Hasbro, if it should go through, is a great sign that, yes, the industry isn't what it once was, but there's still room for major players like Mattel and Hasbro. And Hasbro still makes a ton of money on its licensing with the Transform movies, G.I. Joe movies that came out earlier this decade, and so on. So they're still, and of course, they're responsible for a lot of the Star Wars toys that come out and get produced. So that is probably why Hasbro still has had the ability to remain strong for so long, even in this day and age when electronics still seem to have really come to the forefront as a major player in the toy industry. Speaking of electronics, Xbox One X just debuted on the marketplace last week. Josh, I want to hear your thoughts because analysts are now upgrading the holiday expectation in regards to sales for the Xbox One X. And from a 500,000 this holiday season to almost 1 million. So Josh, seeing how it's almost doubled what the expectations are for the Xbox One X, what are your thoughts on how well you think the Xbox One X will do this holiday season?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the amount of people buying the Xbox One, and I'm hearing nothing but good things. So it's good for them. Good for them, because that's something that Microsoft definitely needed, especially since I know Phil Spencer was talking about their first-party entries, and it's not really doing so well with the fans. But hey, it's cool to see such a high-powered system and so much goodwill going towards Microsoft, because we all know there's a whole lot of Sony fanboys out there who hate on Microsoft every chance they get. And what people want to see now is maybe some like Xbox One X exclusives. But I think going into holidays, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be buying PlayStation 4 as much as they're going to be buying Xbox One X's or Nintendo Switches. And obviously Nintendo Switch is a little bit cheaper, but if you look in like the Black Friday ads, there's a lot of like 4K televisions, a lot of stuff that like you could easily go in and spend, less than $1,000 on an entire, 4K entertainment setup. So good for them. Good for them. And I hope that things continue to trend in their favor. But, I'm sure a lot of people would like to see something exclusive, because I imagine if they made something exclusive for the Xbox One X, it could look pretty spectacular.
You mentioned quickly, I'm going to edit this in later, but you mentioned quickly about Phil Spencer saying something. I didn't get all of that. It didn't come through on the internet, but just that part.
Yeah. So Phil Spencer had said that they realized that they're having problems with first-party AAA titles coming out, and that's the thing that PlayStation has always had in their favor, is the fact that they have so many first-party games, and they're like that. That's why their conferences are like, oh, well, we doesn't have anything, so we're just going to show you all these games and not give you release dates. And they can do stuff like that because Microsoft isn't really competing in that area, and they have a lot of indie games, but it's not really a niche that nobody else has, And so hopefully we'll see some exclusive Xbox One X games here soon and on the map, or maybe they can revive a series like Fable and continue this momentum that Microsoft seems to be building at the moment.
Well, when it comes to the Xbox One X, yes, it is a $500 price tag, but it is very interesting to see that analysts have not only given a higher expectation for sales for this holiday season, but almost doubling it is a definite surprise for such an expensive console. It just tells me, like you said, that people are willing to go ahead and spend that extra kind of money for something that is going to produce a really quality game and a quality output with the 4K capabilities of that system. Because it just tells me that people are going to be buying 4K televisions right and left this holiday season. But I don't know about if that's going to be the case entirely. I think people are just going to have a solid spending season, because Switch is going to be doing extremely well, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. But also as well, I think PS4 and also Xbox One S both going under the $200 mark tells me that there's going to be a lot of systems sold this holiday season. The Xbox One S still produces and streams out at 4K in regards to the Blu-ray or also streaming options. So that could be something there as well. And it going under $200 could be something that people could be very interested in as well. So I think Microsoft is going to have a strong holiday season overall with the pricing structure of under $200 and also the $500 Xbox One X as well. Last but not least, we got to talk about this before we head on out. Josh, I know you heard the news as well. We were talking earlier about 2K having its meeting with its shareholders in regards to announcing its numbers, and also the fact that they, yes, are going to add microtransactions or consumer spending opportunities, as they call it, on every game from here on out. Yay, yay, yay. But they did announce that GTA 5 has now shipped over 85 million copies. So if the sell-through is over 82.5, which is very likely, they announced that GTA 5, either now or by the end of the year, is going to be over that 82.5 million sold through mark that Wii Sports has, and become the biggest selling video game of all time here in the US. So I ask you, Josh, 85 million copies of Grand Theft Auto 5. And there seems to be no end to the popularity in sight. What does that tell you about how well the Grand Theft Auto series has done overall?
Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. They're good games. They last, and they have just the fact that the map is so big and you can do so much, and you can mod and do all this stuff. It's such a game that's easy to access and so versatile, and you can do anything you want on it, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And as long as people keep, because I know that's the reason a lot of people like games like Crackdown and Red Dead Redemption, which is kind of, it's sort of open world. And people have always said, you know what, I think Skyrim would be a fun game if we could have our buddies jump in. But that's a big appeal to people. Like, there are people who like multiplayer games, and there are people who like multiplayer games that they can close the servers off to. And Grand Theft Auto is a perfect example of that. And that's awesome that it is doing so well. I'm curious to see how, a few years down the line, how it holds up to PUBG, or if PUBG still continues this momentum that it has right now. But good for them, man. I know they were, and that's because, and imagine what would have happened had they stopped their modding community. Remember they were talking about that a while back?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And remember, the Grand Theft Auto Online came out later after the original release of the game itself. So it created its own additional excitement. And this is without even the single player story modes that they had said that they were going to tack on, but have decided to say, no, actually, we're not going to do it at all. And it hasn't seemed to stop any momentum at all for GTA 5.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope that this doesn't mean that they're going to get lazy with this franchise and say, well, we still have a lot of people playing the last one, so why are we going to come out with a new one? Because gamers, gamers aren't like, like movie or novel fans. Like their temperament towards somebody or something can change just like that. So let's hope that they don't get lazy. And maybe, I know with Red Dead Red Dead Redemption's in one coming out, right? With that coming out, that it's going to, maybe we'll get a Western Grand Theft Auto. Like, that would be pretty rad. So, you know, let's hope that these kind of games continue to come out. So that way we're not, I know, was it 2K was talking about maybe doing the microtransactions in future games, but
yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's cool, man. It's good to see a game that, you know, it's been around since I was a teenager, still doing so well. I know a lot of the franchises that came out back then, like Halo or Call of Duty and stuff like that, have been, you know, numbers been descending with each entry. But hey, good for them, man.
Yes, GTA 6, Red Dead Redemption 2, and all future games in the 2K lineup will actually have consumer spending opportunities, aka microtransactions, going forward. But that nonetheless doesn't down the fact that GTA 5 is now the biggest selling video game of all time, and deservedly so, with the and that doesn't discount the fact that GTA 5 is the biggest selling game of all time, and with all that it has to offer, deservedly so. One last thing before we head on out. I know we said the last thing. One last thing before we head on out. Josh, you just talked about Skyrim and mentioned that real quickly. How about a good hand for Bethesda? Because I'll tell you what, they have been able to so intelligently repackage this game in so many different ways for the past few years. Even now, it's not only coming out on the Switch, but it's now being packaged with a bundle and in a commercial that you're seeing now all over the place for the upcoming PlayStation VR bundle that it's going to be, you know, coming in with. So I ask you, Josh, how is Bethesda doing it with Skyrim, which is a game that came out 6 years ago?
They're just taking advantage of all the new technology coming out. Like, if there wasn't a Nintendo Switch or a VR, if these consoles weren't taking, you know, weren't beginning to take flight, we wouldn't see this type of thing. But they're just being smart. Like, they created a good game, a game that lasts, and you could tell that there was a demand for it by the, you know, the special edition that came out. And it's just, they see these new consoles, the Switch and the VR, and they're innovating. Like, that's what we like to see from these big companies. I know the VR version is not doing so hot among critics, but that's cool. It's good to see, like, a video game that truly holds up. Like, when did that come out? Back in
2011, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And so it's really just, it stood the test of time, and it's, you know, 6 years later, we're still playing it and still enjoying it, still looking forward to it. Granted, we do want a new Skyrim entry, but Bethesda's always been good like that. They've always, you know, they have a game they literally have games for everybody, and that's, and you can play them across consoles. You know, you got Doom now on Switch, and where other companies like EA won't take the time to do something like that, you know, like give us our Mass Effect remasters, but Bethesda does, and they listen to what the fans want, and they, even stuff the fans might not want, they throw out there, or, you know, they try it anyways. They're an innovative company, and for that, God bless them.
That's indeed, they deserve all the credit for so intelligently repackaging a great majority of their titles, like you said, Doom and also Skyrim, just amazing, and Wolfenstein as well, just being repackaged and put onto different systems. And look, right now, 6 years later, they're still making it fresh by putting it on these different consoles and also packaging it with the PlayStation VR. You said it might not have gotten the greatest critical reception on VR, but to the general audience out there, it being included in a package with the PlayStation VR makes it that much more attractive. What are your thoughts on all the topics we talked about today? What are your thoughts on what are your thoughts on any of the topics that we talked about on today's program, whether it was the box office, any of the video game talk, or even Hasbro and Mattel? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Humanity Media, Game Source, and Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook and Twitter as well. So Josh, it's going to be a big and busy week for us as well. We got a lot of stuff in the pipeline as far as everything going down and coming out for all the upcoming episodes with Black Friday and all that. What are you going to be planning on doing this week that's keeping you so busy at Humanity Media?
I'm going to be doing editing. I have a lot of shows recorded, but I have fallen very far behind on my editing. So that is definitely on my to-do list here. And that way I can finally get some new content out there.
No worries on that. I know it's a lot of work out there for you, but with everything coming along from Humanity Media, it's all well worth it.
Right. So exactly.
Exactly. Okay. Fair enough. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great